Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Natalie here from Retail NZ, and today the session we're going to do is a bit of an online training. So just to give you a bit of perspective, we're on our first day of level 2, so we've just come out of level 3, and everybody is hopefully going to be in your stores today. And so the reason for deciding to do this short workshop is we're really operating in a whole new environment. And retail can be a really exciting space to be. But the one area that I think a lot of us will struggle with is when we have to deal with people who maybe are upset or angry about something. And for a lot of us, that can be quite a frightening experience. And what I'm hoping to share with you today is just some really easy, simple to use tools that can help you de-escalate an angry person at any time. So accompanying this a little workshop, there is a workbook as well, so I'd encourage you have that printed off, and really good actually if you've got it with you now at the moment. So this is a recorded session, so if you don't have it, maybe you just want to pause this and actually go on our website, have a look. It is sitting up there, and you'll be able to print that off and follow along as well, because there's some short little exercises that you'll have an opportunity to do as well. So just wanting to acknowledge, really, I suppose, it's a strange time. The whole world feels new and different and uncertain. And so people that haven't been allowed into stores for a long time are suddenly going to be there. If they're having to wait or being asked to sign in, if you have to do contact tracing, or you're asking people to sanitize their hands, sometimes people are going to maybe feel that it's an invasion of their privacy, or we're living under some sort of a police state now, and they might not like that. So just for you to understand a little bit about what's going on with their psyche, and when people get upset, how that affects you as well. That's really important for us. When we have an understanding of that, it's easier actually for us to deal with that. So that's my approach this morning, to help you understand what's going on for them, but also just to acknowledge what's going on for you and help you manage your own feelings and your own emotions while you engage with your client as well. And yeah, and as I say, quick and easy little 1, 2, 3 step tool that I'm going to give you that I know works. I've used it many times myself as well. And then really importantly, we'll look a little bit of self-care as well, because we know that it can be quite upsetting or distressing when we've been in a difficult interaction, particularly with a client or a customer. And so just so that you know how to kind of take care of yourself in all of this as well. So I suppose the thing to know and acknowledge is that no matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, you're not always going to be able to please all of the people all of the time. And it can feel really difficult at times, and it's very unfair. And let's just start by saying that right at the outset, it's very unfair when somebody comes in and you're the person who's in the firing line, and often it's got nothing to do with you. Often it's that somebody else or something else has upset that person on a particular day, and they go into a retail store and you're the first person they see, and you're kind of going to get it. You're going to be the punching bag. It's not acceptable either. I just want to say that as retailers, that's not our job. That's not what we're there for. So a very unfair situation, but helpful for us to know how to manage that as well. And it's inevitable. It's going to happen to all of us. I've worked in retail as well, and it's happened more than once. It's happened in other roles that I've done as well. So these skills, while you are certainly going to be thinking about how do I apply this in a retail environment, I can assure you that any other role that you do, any other situation that you find yourself in life where someone is coming at you or attacking you, these skills are actually going to stand you in good stead as well. So I want to start just out with having you just think for a minute, and we're just going to slow the pace down just a little bit, because I want you to think for a minute about your role and your purpose as a retailer. Now, if you've printed out the booklet on page 4, there's some place for you to make some notes and to write some stuff down. So I want us just to have a look at this very first question that is posed there. It says a good place to start is to take a moment and have a bit of a think about what your purpose as a retailer really is. If you could sum up in just one succinct sentence the purpose of your job, what would that be? So take a minute, just have a bit of a think of that, and maybe jot down some ideas. If I said to you, what's the purpose of your job? Why is it that you do what you do? What's the aim that you get up every day and go to your job for? What would that be? Okay, so I suppose for most of you, you've thought about the goods that you sell, the environment that you work in. And I just want to say here that if, for example, you work in a retail store that sells clothing and you've said that your purpose is to sell clothing to people that come into the store, I'm really going to encourage you to dig a little bit deeper, think a little bit harder about why is it that people buy clothing? Is it purely on a practical level? I've put some clothes on today and they're here to keep me warm. But actually, even what I've chosen today, it's more than that. I like what it looks like. I've stopped and considered, what are other people going to see when they see me wearing this? Is it the type of clothing? Is it just practical stuff, or is there a bit of a status symbol about it? What does it say? There's always a deeper story to the person who you're selling the goods to, as well as the goods themselves. What is it that they are actually trying to communicate? So on a practical level, yes, we all need to wear clothing every day, but it goes a lot deeper than that sometimes. And so I suppose really what you need to be thinking for yourself is the second question there is, what problem are you trying to solve for your customer? Whether it's clothing or whether it's a vehicle, a vehicle can get you from point A to point B. But some people want to arrive in style. Why do they want that? Because there is a certain sense of needing to have status, for example. And so, yeah, I can arrive in my bashed up 1970s, whatever, or I can arrive in the latest Mercedes or Ferrari or whatever it is that appeals to me. What's the difference? Both vehicles are going to get me to where I need to go, but they say something very different. If I pull up in the Ferrari, am I trying to say, oh yes, I'm wealthy and I've got money and oh look at me, I can afford this. So there's a lot more to your customer psyche when they're thinking about the product that they choose. So you can really think about, what is the problem that this person is trying to solve? Are they just needing a mode of transport that gets them from A to B, or are they needing a mode of transport that gets them from A to B, but they've got some other message or agenda, some image that they're trying to project as well? So both of those things are a means to an end. They are the problem that your customer wants to solve. Some of them are just going to have a slightly different view of that. So think about what it is that you sell. If you think about it in terms of what do the supermarkets sell, food. It's a basic item. So that's sort of on that lower level of when we think about it in terms of needs, and we'll get into needs a little bit as well. But think about what is really the thing that you are trying to solve for the problem. And the little box at the bottom of the page says there, a retailer is a consultant who helps people find workable solutions to everyday challenges. So you're not just there selling a dress or a handbag or a car or whatever else it is that you're selling. Actually think of yourself as somebody who people come to, and your job is to actually to help them solve a problem that you are trying to, or that they are trying to solve rather. So over the page, on page 5 over there, there is a little diagram to the right, and it is a depiction or a representation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, it's very, as I said to you right at the beginning, when you're going to, if we're really going to understand what's going on for somebody who's angry or upset, you've got to know kind of what's going on a little bit of a deeper level over there. Now, we all are operating from a needs base. Anything we do is motivated by some sort of need. So if you look at the diagram there, on that very low level, we're talking about things like air. and it's an absolute need just to be able to survive. We need to be able to breathe. The next thing is we need food and we need water. One level up from that, we need things like shelter and safety and stability, for example. And then those needs become a whole lot more complex as you go up that pyramid there as well. And so then you look at things like love and belonging and inclusion. And if you really wanted to drill down over there, you'd find things like respect and needing that for that relationship and needing to be understood. And if we really drill down, you'd see that there's a whole lot of other I suppose higher level but a little bit more sophisticated needs that we have as human beings. We can feel really out of control sometimes if we find ourselves in a position where we feel like we're losing control. And often when people are in an angry situation, it might actually feel that there has been a loss of power or a loss of control, or their choice has been taken away. That sense of autonomy has actually been taken away from them. But at whatever one of those levels somebody has got a need that isn't being met, they can perceive that as a threat. So for example, right now, a great example for all of us is we've just been in lockdown, or we're slowly sort of still in semi-lockdown. We're slowly starting to emerge from that. And we saw that with a run on our supermarkets. People were bulk buying everything from toilet paper to bottled water to flour. I think we're still basically struggling to get some basic goods in our hands at the moment as well. So that's on that really basic level. You know, people say, well, why was there this big rush on toilet paper? Because being able to eat on the one end and excrete on the other end is what keeps us alive. So, you know, I know we've had a good laugh about the toilet paper situation, but it is absolutely fundamentally on a very basic level linked to our survival. So it's very interesting stuff when you actually start getting into it a little bit deeper. So when somebody is upset or angry, the first thing you've got to be thinking about is what need do they have that actually hasn't been met for them in this situation? And if we go back and we said there, you know, a retailer is a consultant who helps people find workable solutions to everyday challenges. They have a need that's not being met. So on some level, that is posing a challenge for them and can actually be seen as a bit of a threat for them. All right, so what's really going on for somebody who's upset? When needs are not met on a subconscious level, it can feel like we're facing a threat. We've already said that. This could be perceived as a threat to our survival or our well-being in some way. When we come under threat, our rational brain turns off and our primitive brain or our reptile brain kicks into gear. And that is the part of us, that instinctual part of us that says, as an organism, as a being, my job is, over and above anything else, my job is to survive. So what happens is that your cognitive thinking actually switches off. For the person who's upset or angry, their cognitive thinking actually tends to switch off and they go into that fight or flight mode. So what happens there is there's a trigger that says some danger over here, we need to survive. Don't worry about the brain and don't worry about sending blood to the digestive system or the reproductive system. Send it to the extremities, the hands and the feet, and send it to the muscles, because there's danger here and we're either going to need to run away from the danger or we're going to need to fight the impending danger. So that's where all the resources of the body goes, and there's a lack of a rush of blood to the brain, and so you're actually not thinking on a cognitive level, and that's why we become kind of snappy in those situations, and the logic and that ability to reason actually leaves us over there. All right, so over on page 6, when you find yourself, or when you realize that you're facing a customer who is a little bit upset, you've got to be thinking about, you've got to be one step ahead, all right? And so this is where we get into the skill set of this. Got to be one step ahead. What is it you're dealing with over here? Okay, no, as we've just explained, they're not thinking on that cognitive level anymore. They've gone into reptile mode. They've become a bit of a snappy crocodile. All right, so right at the top there, we've got some ground rules for calming a crocodile. Crocodile is your angry person. I mean it in the nicest possible way. And it's really important to know and to remember that we've probably all been there at some point or another in our lives where we've just felt like nothing's going our way. And we're going to lash out at the first person that we find in front of us. And sadly enough, that is often somebody in a retail situation. All right, so let's quickly have a read through those. Rule number 1, understand that your angry customer is in survival mode. The reptile brain is switched on and they're actually incapable of rational thought right at this moment. Doesn't mean they're a completely irrational person, doesn't mean they're a horrible person. It's just in this particular instance, they're really struggling to see the logic of the situation, however apparent it might be for them. Rule number 2, don't try to reason or argue with a crocodile or tell them that they are wrong. It's impossible. They're actually incapable of hearing you. If you look at our picture of a crocodile over there, you don't see very big ears. They've got tiny little ears. They just can't hear you. They're in survival mode. They just want to snap at you all the time. So rule number 2, refer to rule number 1. They're in reptile mode and you've got to beware at this stage because you're likely to get bitten, okay? Likely to get snapped. Rule number 3, very difficult. Your job is to remain calm, remain professional, and to remember that no matter how toxic somebody becomes, you do really well to not take it personally. And that can be a big ask. It can be a really, really tough thing to ask people to do. But think of it in terms of your own survival. Your own survival depends on it. And it's really important to know as well that when you find yourself in a situation where you are confronted with somebody who is angry, who is upset, who maybe is raising their voice and using very sharp language with you, immediately you yourself are going to go into a bit of a fight and flight stage yourself, because you can perceive this as a threat to your safety, your well-being. It can be seen as a challenge of your position or your status in this situation as well. So don't forget about thinking what's going on for me, and for you to be able to remain calm and breathe and say, I am dealing with whatever it is that's going on in front of me over here, and this person is upset. So really important for me to remain calm. And if you can kind of get it and understand that it's probably not about you at all, something else would have happened in their day or in their life. They might not be feeling well. They might have had some really bad news, and now they're in a retail environment and they can't find what they need, or something else has happened, or they're being asked to wait or clean their hands, or something that they just don't feel they need the pressure, the added pressure of that as well. So take some deep breaths, bit of mindfulness, calm down. Yes, this person is upset. My job as the retailer is I'm here to help them with this challenge, to help them solve this problem that they're facing right now. Your best friend in this whole situation is kindness and empathy, and to remember that we've probably all been there at some point or another. So to try and have a little bit of understanding and going, yep, I'm human, you're human, and kind of understand how this is a difficult situation for you right now. Rule number 5, show that you care by communicating that you are doing your very best to find a workable solution. Okay, so once we've got that, because that helps you just prepare for the situation, it helps you take stock and assess what's actually here in front of me, somebody who's upset. It's not that they're a bad person, or it's not about me personally, and I am the professional who's going to deal with this in a professional manner. So here are the skills, here's the actual tool that you need, and it's very simple to remember. So angry person, calm myself down. Okay, what's my skill set? My skill set is 3 little things: past, present, and future. Okay, tenses, very, very simple. It's easy to remember, so kind of that's probably the most you need to remember. There's some other little micro skills I'm going to talk about around that, but those, if you can remember those 3 main things, you're in a very good position to be able to handle this in a very calm, very rational, and very professional manner, and you're going to come out looking really good at the other end. And of course, that's what we want to be doing. All right, so past. Past is an invitation that you extend to the other person to tell you what has happened. Past tense, okay? Not what's happening right now. What has happened to get them to this point? And you might use some language like, how can I help you, sir? What has happened? All right. And again, this isn't a time for you to think about, what do you look like? What does this person see? What is it that your body language is communicating as you ask that question? Probably the biggest skill around this first step in the process is to listen. Really listen without judgment, because often when we listen, our own mind is starting to race around thinking about, oh, how am I going to respond to this? What am I going to say? What excuse can I make because this person is so upset? Don't go there, just listen, and listen to try and understand, and to really try and see things from the person's perspective. And watch your body language, tilt your head a little bit, narrow your eyes, look at their facial expressions. If they've got a frown, it helps you to frown as well, because on a subconscious level, what you're communicating to this person is that, yeah, I'm getting you. I understand what it is that you're saying. So your brain and your body, we're such fine-tuned machines. We pick up everything that is going on around us. So don't even think that even just a small change in your facial expression doesn't communicate something to that person. So don't underestimate the power of that, really, is what I'm saying. And then, yeah, don't listen to respond, just listen to try and understand. Second last bullet point there on page 6 says acknowledge. Really important. Acknowledge what they are saying. Whether they are right or wrong is absolutely of no consequence. Just communicate that you've heard them. Don't underestimate the importance of listening and acknowledging what it is that you've heard. And some language for you to use around that might be something along the lines of, I can most definitely see how such a long wait could be challenging or distressing for you when you've got so much to do. So they're really maybe complaining about having to stand in a queue, and you can say, yeah, I hear you. This is tough. This sucks. It's not fun. All right, so we can move over onto page 7. So that's the past. So past is, just to sum that up, we've given them an opportunity to tell you what has happened, what has angered them, and the most important thing is there to just, through your body language and through the language that you use, just say, yeah, it is, you're right. It's a horrible situation, and I get you and I hear you. That in and of itself is going to start that de-escalation process for them, just being heard. All right, so then we move into the present. Now, whether we want to admit it or not, we're all being driven on actually a powerful way by our feelings and our emotions. If you think of the word emotion, it's actually energy in motion. And when we have a feeling or when we have an emotion, it's actually our body's defense mechanism telling us that something in our environment possibly isn't right. It can be telling you that something is wonderful in your environment. If you're feeling happiness or joy, what those feelings of elation is telling you is that, yeah, things are good right now. But of course, the opposite is true as well. And because we are creatures who are programmed for survival, we're far more tuned into the negative emotions. And so sometimes it's really good to be able to take a step back and evaluate those positive emotions, even more so sometimes than we do the negative emotions. All right. So when it's a negative emotion, the minute we get that negative emotion, that survival thing kicks in and we go into that reptile state over there again. So in this situation, it probably is a little bit inappropriate to say, so how are you feeling now? We're not counselors. Let's just remember that. But what you can do in this situation is you can actually have a guess at how that person might be feeling. And you know why you can have a guess? Because you're a human being and you have felt every emotion that this person is feeling right now. At some point in your life, I can guarantee you would have felt it. So whether you think they may be feeling overwhelmed, whether you think they're feeling really stressed or irritated or whatever you think it might be feeling, communicate that to them in some way. And you're only going to have a guess, and you could be wrong, but that's okay. So for example, you could say something along the lines of, I can only imagine how frustrated you must feel by this right now. So many people are feeling this way now too. So you've kind of gone, yeah, I've heard what you said. I can imagine you're feeling very frustrated or very unhappy or very stressed by this right now. And you know what? You're not alone. There are other people right now who are feeling this as well. So you're doing two things over there. Well, firstly, you tapping into the emotion of it, but then you're doing two things. You're validating and you're normalizing. So by saying, yes, I can imagine that you're feeling frustrated. So you've heard the problem and you're saying, yeah, it's valid. What you're saying is 100% valid. And I can see that, that is causing some frustration for you. The normalizing is really important, because what happens is often when people get into a state of, they know they're in that reptile brain state, and it can feel like they've lost control a little bit. And depending on who you are as a person, for some people, that can be quite an embarrassing situation to find themselves in. They know people are starting to look around, so they feel a little bit embarrassed. So just being able to say to them, you know what, you're not alone in this, can really go a long way to helping them feel that you understand them, and to bring that heightened tension, to actually bring it down. So let's have a look over there. The importance of this is that it communicates, number one, that you're on their side. It can be a very lonely place to be feeling angry and frustrated and just wanting to lash out at everybody. Secondly, as I say, that they're not alone or going crazy. So that's the normalization. Yeah, other people are feeling this way too. There's a lot of people feeling like this right now. Says, yep, you're not alone. You're not going crazy. It can certainly alleviate the embarrassment for the person. And most importantly, it is another step in that de-escalation. So we've done past, we've done present, and then we need to be thinking about how do we move into the future. But just before we move on there, it's really important, think about your own attitude. Think about how you're handling this. Keep your own voice low and calm. Keep that eye contact good. And make an apology. Honestly, it doesn't cost you anything. And even though it's not your fault, 9 out of 10 times that customer is going to know that you're not the person who's responsible for whatever it is that's actually going on for them as well. And sometimes when you can take that little bit of a step back, it helps them just to get that little bit of space where they can actually start realizing that they're taking it out on the wrong person as well. And very often they can switch things over, and they'll actually start developing a little bit of empathy for your situation as well. So the thing you need to ask yourself there is, do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? Even if you can see that they're completely off track, just go along their journey with them. You are there to facilitate their process. Okay. And another thing is, thank people. If it is something, if they are complaining about the service or whatever it might be, thank them for bringing their concern to your attention. Sometimes complaints are our best friend. They can really help us to learn to do things better. If you're in any kind of business, you should be thinking about, how do I make this better? We always need to be improving. And so sometimes complaints and things that our customers bring to our attention are the catalysts that we can do to change our processes and change the way we do things, and to do them better at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We're there to create a good experience for people, because that's what puts the money in our pockets at the end of the day. All right. So then we move into the future. So we've done the past, we've done the present, and then we move into the future. Now, right at the beginning, I said, what is our role as a retailer? We're the consultants who help find workable solutions to everyday challenges. So if you're in retail, this is what you're about. You are about helping your customer find solutions. And this is what we're going to do as we step into the future as well. So look at the situation. Take it on a case-by-case, on its own merits, on a case-by-case basis. At the moment, if we've got people standing in queues, I'm sitting here in my possum thing today because it's actually cold, and I'm actually dreading going out and having to go and hit the shops, particularly at the thought of going to stand in a queue. I've hated doing my grocery shopping at the supermarkets, because there's all these other things that previously I took for granted, just being able to walk in. So it's these kind of things that people are tired of and can actually just spark something for somebody. So think about it. You've got maybe an older person. They might not be well. They might, be susceptible to some other health conditions and things like that, but they need to go out to do their shopping. If they're starting to get upset, Find out what it is. Ask yourself the question, you know, can I bump this person up the queue? For example, is it really going to be such a thing for the other people who are standing there? But if you can get them served and sorted and out the way, it actually can speed the process up for other people as well. Really important though, if you do decide to take some action like that and give somebody preferential treatment over somebody else, really important to communicate your reasons for doing that to the other people who are standing there. So I'll give you a good example. I was in a queue the other day at one of the supermarkets, and it was a long queue, and I was standing sort of quite far back. And from where I was standing, we could actually see people being let into the supermarket ahead of the people in the queue. And the person behind me was starting to get really upset about this and saying, oh, who are these people and why are they being allowed in? But then when it was explained to this individual that actually those are the essential workers, their whole attitude changed, their whole demeanor changed, and they were saying, oh, that's so fantastic, oh, it's so nice that they're really doing that for them. So going from really, really angry to being actually really okay and empathetic about it, there was only one thing that changed, and it was information. So give people information. Information is knowledge. Information is power. And so it helps people to understand the situation. And when people understand that, they're a whole lot more empathetic, and they'll, you know, that tends to de-escalate them as well. Yeah, and it could be, you know, just that somebody's just getting really irate and upset. They might be running late for another appointment. Be thinking outside the box. Can you treat this person the same as you would somebody who rang in and wanted to place an order over the phone or wanted to place an order online? Just remember, everybody doesn't have the same computer literacy skills. So maybe somebody standing in a queue who needs to go somewhere else, can you actually just take that order, get their details, and maybe get that shipped out to them? Your job is to be thinking out of the box. Be creative in your thinking, be creative in your problem solving approaches as well. And a really good thing going forward, if you're feeling a little bit stumped and you want to help somebody, but you kind of don't know where to go to with it, ask them what would be helpful for them in this moment. Sometimes they're going to be unreasonable, but very often, you know, your customer might have a very practical, very doable, very implementable solution. Some of you can just pick up and say, yeah, I can actually do that. Let me sort that out. And maybe you can take that and it might actually be a workable solution for the other people who are waiting as well. So think about outside the box, be flexible and as helpful as you possibly can. And I suppose, yeah, really just important to just know as well that sometimes you're not always going to have the answers. Sometimes there isn't a solution to a particular problem. But the fact that you've communicated, communication is key. And the fact that you've even tried will go a long way just to actually calm somebody down, help them to take a few deeper breaths and go, this is the situation that we're in, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit unreasonable as well. So just show the kindness, show the empathy, because that in and of itself will go a long way to helping you de-escalate somebody. And again, don't take any of this personally. You know, crocodiles are not necessarily good on their interpersonal skills, but you are, because you're a retailer. You know how to stay polite, stay professional. It's all about professionalism at the end of the day. So, you know, do your own self-talk as well. Remind yourself to be calm, remind yourself to be engaged, be polite. You can have a little bit of a game with it as well, because sometimes, you know, we can have a good laugh about these difficult situations afterwards too. So there's always something good that comes out of it. But right at the end of it all, the professionalism of you yourself personally, and as well as the organization and the brand that you represent, really important to keep your professionalism intact as well. And that just brings me on to my last point, really. And sometimes, even though you've come through it with flying colors, you've remained professional, you've found a wonderful solution for your customer, you can sometimes feel really rattled and upset sometimes by what somebody has said to you, because people can be quite cruel and unfair sometimes as well. And so watch your own body as well. Listen to what it is that your body is telling you. If you're feeling a little bit rattled, if you actually can feel yourself trembling or shaking, then you know that your own adrenaline and cortisol levels have been raised. So you've actually gone into a fight or flight situation as well. Very unhealthy for you to stay in that for a prolonged period of time. So what you want to do is is actually take yourself out of that situation, even for a short space of time. 10 minutes or 15 minutes if you can, and think about what is good for your well-being. And it's honestly, it's the simple things. If you can talk to somebody, just being able to go, blah, 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 this is what's happened, this is how I'm feeling, to kind of unload to somebody, a manager or a trusted colleague, somebody that you can really trust, is going to really help just to alleviate your stress levels. Think about the physiological things that you need in that moment. Have I had something to eat today? That will help just to restore the balance for you. Maybe it's just that you can take a short walk, grab a coffee, get a drink, listen to some music for a few minutes, whatever it is that normally makes you feel good. Even if you can do that for a short period of time, is really going to help you just to be able to reset and go about your day in a normal manner as well. Yeah, I suppose the thing just to remember is that it's abnormal circumstances, and even when somebody does come into your store and they are spinning out of control and taking it out on you, that in and of itself is abnormal as well. So any reaction and response that you have is a normal response to actually what is an abnormal circumstance. So it's okay not to be okay in that moment as well. And the upside of this is, and I know a lot of us really don't like confrontation. I absolutely hate confrontation. And this was actually one of the reasons why I decided to learn more about it for my own well-being, but also to help other people as well. What it does do is it builds resilience. Now, resilience has become a little bit of a buzzword in business as well. But what it is it's when it's our ability to bounce back. And the more we are exposed to difficult situations, but we actually manage to work our way through those in a successful manner, what that does is it gives us that inner strength, that inner knowledge that I've dealt with this before. I do have the skills and the tools and the knowledge to deal with this and deal with it really well. And that's resilience, because I know that the next time I face a similar situation, I now have a much higher, a renewed level of confidence to be able to actually deal with the situation. So certainly it's not nice in the moment, but it definitely builds your resilience there as well. Yeah, and I suppose so that's really it. Over on page 9, there's actually a bit of a summary diagram there for you. So the thing to remember, I'll just recap for you. So in summary, the things to remember are past, present, and future. That's your model. Ask them what happened, figure out how it is that they're feeling now, because that all de-escalates, and then we move into solution mode. Solution mode, think outside the square. Your micro skills around this, number 1 is listen. Listen, listen, listen. Don't listen to try and respond, just merely listen non-judgmentally and to try and understand things from the customer's perspective. Don't forget to acknowledge what people have said. Yes, I hear you. Validate it. Yeah, give it some validity. I hear what you're saying, and you're right, that is very frustrating. And other people are feeling the same way too. Or yes, I have felt that way myself in the past. Or I would feel the same if I was in your position. All of that normalizes it for people, and they can kind of go, phew, I'm not some crazy person who's spinning out of control. Apparently other people are experiencing similar things as well. Always remember throughout the whole process, you want to be engaging. Watch the body language, watch the eye contact, do the mirroring. If they're smiling, smile. If they're frowning, frown, because you're empathizing on a very subconscious level and saying, yeah, I get it. I'm just like you, because that actually helps to build that rapport, and you can actually get them on side to then move into solution mode. Don't be too big to apologize, whether it's your fault or not. It wins you brownie points, and it actually helps people to be empathetic to you and your situation as well. Another great step in that whole de-escalation process. Thank people. Thank them for bringing things to your attention. And be authentic about it. When somebody does bring something to your attention, be thinking about, oh, is this the way we do things? Maybe we could do things a little bit better here. So use the complaints and the things that people are unhappy about, bring them into how do we make things better going forward for our business. Remain polite, remain professional, and be seeking solutions. And also to remember, when they're in that snappy crocodile reptile state, don't argue, don't try and reason with them. They just can't hear you in that moment. And don't make excuses. Just take it on the chin. Yes, I hear you. Thank you. I apologize. You can see how that's frustrating for you. Now, how do I fix it? How can you and I work together to actually get you what it is that you need? Because it's all about unmet needs at the end of the day. And to sum up, right at the end, you're possibly going to feel quite rattled and upset by this interaction yourself. So take some time out, have a chat with somebody else who's maybe in your organization, who's been through something similar, who understands. Make sure your body's taken care of. You've had something to eat, you've had something to drink. Get out, get some fresh air and whatever it is, because you do need to be able to reset so that you can function normally for the rest of your day as well. So it's all about recovery. So self-care is just important to get you back on the horse, back in the saddle, so that you can work out the rest of your day as well. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. You have successfully completed this training module. If you really want to make it stick, over the page I have included some role play situations for you. If you're a manager, I'd say certainly, carve out some time. You always need to be training your people. If you are an employee, you always need to be upskilling. Even if you don't know where life is going to take you, everything that you learn in every situation, in every job that you have, will stand you in good stead to take the next step, wherever that next step may be. So practice, 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 have some fun with it. It's very stressful in the moment, so if as a team you can acknowledge that and get together and have a bit of fun as you learn these new skills, I would certainly encourage you to do that, and that really is the best way to learn. So I've kind of given you the theory now, but now it's up to you to do the practical. When I do this in a workshop environment, we would actually get into some groups and we would do a little bit of role play and have a great laugh and lots of fun with it as well. So that's certainly my encouragement for you. I realize that online training is we're missing this group interaction over here, but I want to encourage you, if you've got any specific situation that you'd like to discuss, and it might not even necessarily just be with clients, I can also certainly help you work through any other conflict situations that you might be experiencing as well. Please feel free to call me. My phone number is actually included in the workbook. You're welcome to call me. My email address is in there as well. Or if you have any other more sort of general inquiry, please don't forget to call us on our 0800 number, which is 0800 472 472, or you can email us on advice@retail.kiwi. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this, and I'm sure we'll see you again. Cheers.